Good morning. Welcome to Grid Tactical Tuesday. My name is Justin Myers. I am joined today by Adam Dow, and you are in for a treat. Adam is a top agent, right, in Keller Williams, in Gary's mastermind, number one team in New Hampshire for over 10 years. Uh, More importantly, right, Adam's got a great servant's heart. We got connected through a mutual friend that appeared here on Grid Tactical Tuesday. Got to sit down. I think you're really going to enjoy hearing his story. I certainly did. Adam, really excited to have you on this morning. How are you this morning?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Excellent, man. Adam, walk us through a little bit. You shared with us out there. How did you get into real estate? Where'd you catch the entrepreneurial bug?
Well, I think those are two different answers. I've always considered myself an entrepreneur. Like in high school, I was in entrepreneur class. We had the most successful entrepreneur business. And, I like thinking of creative ways of making money. But in real estate, I was actually, a part of a dot com that we were trying to do something big. It was right towards the end of a dot com era, and it crashed and burned pretty bad. So I was on monster.com, kind of looking for a job for those of you that remember monster.com. And I was looking for a marketing job and I felt like I was overqualified. I had a business degree, 9 years experience in a consulting company, and there just wasn't anything out there. And real estate was hiring, and I didn't do much research into it. I didn't know that there wasn't a salary, but they interviewed me and said, "Hey, you're hired." So that was my entree into real estate. So it wasn't well thought out, but it's worked out okay.
And when you say worked out okay, kind of walk me through where are y'all now? I didn't want to short sell the production, the accomplishments of the team. What does the business look like today?
Yeah, so we're about 25 agents. Like you said, we're been this is the 10th year in a row that I've been, in MLS, the number one agent in MLS for all brokerages. Last year we did about 200 million, just shy of 200 million as a team. And we have a luxury business and we also have a good residential business, and we're spread throughout the state because in my town there's 150 realtors, and on average every year there's about 150 sales. So if I wanted to build a big business, I had to spread out because our population is only about 8,000 in the wintertime, and it goes to 20 to 30,000 in the summertime. But I had to figure out a way to get big numbers being in a small town.
So we have a framework here at Gray. I love that, Adam. Thank you. Where we talk about the seven levels of freedom that every entrepreneur goes through. Level one is foundation, energy, identity, mindset. How do you develop a structure that's going to support your habits, etc. Level two is predictable income. How do I learn how to do the job? Three is ownership. Do I know my key performance indicators? Do I have a P&L that I'm closing every single month? Right. And then I go from there into now I've got the right to invest, like that cash machine I built, my sales machine is actually a business. That's
Yep.
also an investment. And maybe I buy some other investments, but then I have to go on a leadership journey, right? And then I have to expand into maybe other, like you're going into other markets, it sounds like, or maybe I might expand into, joint ventures. And the most important one is impact. Like, what am I doing all of this for? Am I going to end up on the yacht alone and sad? Like, what's your why? Like, what inspired you to go build this thing, or what fills your cup?
It was interesting. I had done it for 9 years, that single agent, always on the phone, always, picture a dad on the phone with his, feet in the sand. At least I was in somewhere warm, but I was still working. So I was on that crazy cycle of single agent, and I was thinking about Keller Williams at the time, and because they had teams, and I always loved to be part of more than one person being successful. I'd rather collaborate than be. I called it island of success, and I was going to move brokerages, and I had one of the more luxury brokerages chasing me, and they wanted to open an office around me. And I just like, I don't think that this is going to be our market can sustain a lot of agents being successful. Yes, I could probably make some money doing this, and because I did have a good luxury business. My last year as a single agent, I did 23 million with 27 sales, and that was back when that
Hmm.
was a lot. And so I've always wanted to succeed through others. And when I heard about Keller Williams and the team part of it, I just gravitated towards that. And it's just kind of the natural thing is, all right, let's you and I partner together. And I've got a series of partnerships throughout my career that were instrumental. And I just think it's easier to succeed together.
I love that. And so you mentioned being, the island of success, the dad toes in the sand, maybe with the family, but I'm still on the phone. What does that look like today in terms of your family life? Like have building a big business doesn't come easy. Becoming the number one agent in a state doesn't come easy. Have you been able to get back some more of that personal time as you've grown?
Yeah, no, I mean, building the team and sometimes luxury agents try to hold on to things like I'm the miracle worker. It's my name on the sign. I need to do everything. More so than teams that do bigger units and things like that. And I have been able to create some expertise in other people, specialties and things like that to be able to because that's the hard thing is the handoff. Like someone calls
Mhm.
you as the top agent in the state, and they're like, "Well, you're just going to hand me off to somebody else." So I really committed early on to, even though I was maybe going to lose some deals or maybe some clients, that I needed that family time. So we tried different things, and so it was really important to me to have a luxury team that wasn't all about me. So I didn't have to go to all the closings. I could play golf. I could hang out with the family. I could be on the boat. Things like that. So I mean, I still work a lot. I joke I don't work all day, but I work every day, and we do take a lot of vacations and things like that. But the commitment to getting myself out of everything has paid off. Certainly in the last few years.
Rob is on here, Rob Chavez, and you guys have some similar in your career. I think you've kind of some similar sales histories, not being the number one agent in the state of Virginia, but kind of volume and longevity. And he says something, I quoted it to have an agent partner, 80% done is 100% awesome.
Yep.
Like if it's getting done by someone else, right? It's that dragon of control is very difficult. Clutch. Am I trying to hold on to this thing? And only I can do it best. And so I'm the technician and that entrepreneurial, the E-myth, right? Um, I really want to dive into your model, Adam, which we're here to talk about. I think it's really interesting. It's fascinating. I was thinking we could do it two ways. We could talk about the model, or we can go through it kind of chronologically. Do you want to talk about what it looks like now? Because you mentioned having some agent partners and enabling them, right,
Sure.
to be the star and not being all about you.
So for me, coming out of the single agent, and knowing I wanted a team, and I got some people. I had some early success. I think I was number 9 in the state when I stopped being a single agent, and so people wanted to join me, and I was like, all right, be like me, like without any sort of training. I didn't know, what I really didn't think about was what it took for me to be successful. I just had, good relationship business. I had some good marketing behind me. But I had these key relationships with people, and now we call them influencers because I had to take what I did naturally and put it into a system, and put it into a framework and then train to it. But in the early days, I had some agents join the team and I failed them because I didn't give them the tools to be successful in the way that I was successful. So,
Mhm.
the other side of letting go is also, giving people the tools and equipping them to be able to do some of the things you expect them to do. And, so what I found in luxury and what I found in that handoff, that's the hardest thing in, I think in real estate when it's your name on the sign and you're giving it to somebody else is, how do you make that so the client actually appreciates it versus is ignored by it? So we just incorporated area experts into our language, and what that means is my first area expert was somebody. We live on Lake Winnipesaukee, which is a 44,000 acre lake. There's 8 towns that surround it. And on the other side is about 45 minutes. So I got another agent on the other side, and she was my area expert for Meredith. And somebody would call and say, Adam, I want you to be my agent. And I would turn the conversation into, where are you looking? And they would say, well, kind of Meredith and, in that area. I say, well, I can't wait to introduce you after this call. And I introduce the team and what we do. I can't wait to introduce you to our Meredith area expert. She knows about the restaurants. She knows about the shortcuts around the traffic. She's got kids in the schools. Like it was oh, good. I can't
Yeah.
wait to talk to her versus, hey, I've got a buyer agent in Meredith. It's a completely different thing. So I think something that's lost in this world of AI and Google search and all of these things is people try to be really good at a lot of different things. And you just talked about your agent that specializes in the short-term rentals. I think if you laser focus on something, you get really good at that, and you get known for that, and they start referring you to that. That doesn't mean that you're not going to be doing these other things. It's going to be
Mhm.
you're an expert in something. So we have area experts, we have property experts, those are our listing agents. We have, land experts, commercial experts. It's just like this array. When I get the person coming in, what do you need? We've got an expert for that.
Oh, I love that. And I love that uh I think there's power in names. Like people grow into that, and like, hey, I'm your area expert, and I'm empowered to show up differently. I'm empowered to be an authority about the area. And I love how you mentioned some very common sense things. Where's the shortcuts around the traffic? Where are the schools? Where's the best bagel? Like what? That's what I need a realtor for. So actually, how do you, when someone comes to the area, what do y'all do to transition them into the community? Does that make sense? Like, I don't know if there's a plan, or if that's informal.
You mean after the sale?
Yeah, like say, hey, you're here, but I'm here as a we do these because I think that's like undersold. Of, if I move to a new area, man, a great realtor can be my man. They introduced me to so many different people. They were a resource, or it could be they were amazing, but I saw Adam a bunch, and I haven't really talked to him in 4 years.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's the key, right? It's to being the source of the source. And we have our influencers, which our influencers are defined as somebody who has influence in the community and somebody who uses that influence to give you business, right? You could be friends with a whole bunch of influencers, but if they don't give you business, then they're not an influencer for you. So we've got, in our CRM, we've got categories: top 10 influencer and top 100 influencer. Top 10 are the people that are absolutely instrumental. They've given you business. In my case, I've got a lot of mentors in that category, people early on that were successful at business. And I would be intentional about asking them questions to foster that mentor mentee relationship. And I've had some amazing people who are in the second home market, and I was a kid out of high school helping, the president of Guidant Medical find a house. And I also knew my place. Like he had negotiated much more in business than I had ever done in real estate. So I never overpromised him my expertise. But what I did say is, if you want to know where the wind blows, where people party in front of your houses, where you want to go fishing, like I can bring that to you, and we can, find you the right house. So that's the influencer. That's the relationships. So if you think about that relationship, and I could take him out of out to lunch and say, I had listed questions that I would ask these people, that I would ask over and over again, and still do, and I just learned so much. So on the influencer side, that is sorry, my phone's ringing.
It's okay.
But then you asked about, all right, how do you carry relationships forward? The mentor relationship is awesome. Like they've turned into friends. You call them for advice. Right after COVID, I called this guy that sold his car dealership for $100 million, and he's turned into a friend of ours. And I said, what are you doing? Like, are you going crazy? Like, what's going to happen? This was like early 2020.
Yeah.
He said, well, I've already made those decisions. I made those decisions last year. And he walked me through his DEF cons. Like, if sales go to this, I'm going to cut these expenses. If sales go to this, I'm going to cut these people. Like, I was like, but you didn't know COVID was coming. It's like, no, I do that every year. It's like, it just was like an example of a business, you know, nugget that I got for free because I fostered this relationship. So relationships are huge, staying in that. But on the other side of it is like what you talked about. We call them PTKs, or people to know. So if you visualize a piece of paper that you give to a buyer and say, here's 100 people to know in Wolfboro, that's the town that I'm in. And so we curate our people to know list so that every person on the list knows that we give out their name. Every cell phone number that's on the list knows who we are. So if one of our buyers calls, so when people are thinking about us, they're thinking about the people that we know because we've told them, this is the person that will pick up the phone and
Hmm.
actually come over and do some handyman work or mow your lawn or fix your dock and stuff like that. So for us, it's all about keeping the relationships in our small towns tight and having them be super effective and top-siding them. Like I do training and breaking into luxury. I say, if you're going to give out an accountant's name in your town, why don't you make sure that it's the best accountant? Like actually do some research, call your top 10 clients, ask them who they use for being an accountant, and then give out that person's name. And then every time you give out that person's name, call or text them to say, hey, I don't know if they're going to call you, but the people that bought on Main Street, I just gave them your name as a fantastic accountant. And that's a real example of how I got the best accountants, business back 20 years ago when I was 2 years in the business. I just kept giving his name out and telling him that I was giving his name out. And it happened that he was a great golfer and I liked to golf with him. And like, it's just like, how do you get these
Hmm.
relationships beyond the deal and keep them going, throughout your lifetime? And they turn into friends, mentors, teachers, whatever.
So what's funny is I just want to share because this is very much how you and I are talking. So Matt, everyone here was blown away. Matt Bialy came and spoke
Yeah.
to us back in November and gave an incredible presentation. Kind of sounds like some what Adam does, right? In terms of being super intentional about building deep relationships, but because of the intentionality, just really being able to show up authentically. We got connected to Dan O'Halloran, right? And who connected us, yeah, exactly, to Adam. And we talk about zoning our market, right? Zeroing in on our target avatar, owning the mind share, nurturing those, earning the heart share. This is the James Shaw, like, right? You earn the heart share, leads to mind share, leads to market share. Show people that you care about them. I had a couple different questions, and so what do you ask? Uh, what do you ask those people when you said I ask some similar questions when I sit down to people when I'm building a relationship, those mentors, those influencers, can you give us like three or four questions you ask them?
Just kind of overarching, what was the accomplishment that you were most proud of? What was one mistake that you, learned from, but wish you could have avoided? Just big overarching
Yep.
questions. It was funny. I was playing golf with somebody, probably 10 years ago. And I just was in the mindset of asking those types of questions. And I forgot who I was playing golf with. There was like this super successful guy. And it's like, well, probably my biggest accomplishment was I sold my business for $600 million. So I was like, holy crap, I forgot. Yeah, that's you, right? But, but it was so natural. And I was going through I want to learn about you.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I'm in an area that there's some pretty, amazing. I got into luxury, but there's two things that put me behind the eight ball was, I took the test at Coldwell Banker to see if you're going to be a good realtor. And, I scored the worst on that test of anyone in 14 years that they gave it. And I know that because I talked to the person that gave it to me because I hired her 14 years later. But I'm also, 9 generations in the area, but they're all farmers and then a truck driver and then me. So I didn't grow up with money. I didn't grow up in the luxury space. I had to earn my way in. So here I am, a shy person, introvert, like, and talking to these amazingly successful people. So maybe it was a defense in my part to say, if you ask them questions, then you won't have to talk. But I just like got all of this amazing, relationships and insight.
Um, I have questions and I think great questions in the chat box, but I want to ask you two questions. So what's the accomplishment you're most proud of?
Um, Recently, I think that having the culture that we have on the team right now, it's hard to grow a team. It's hard to have people rowing in the same direction. It's hard to have people, celebrating each other's success in this 1099 world. Not having the scarcity mindset, having an abundance mindset. Um, so for me, number one is fun. And the first year I got that, it was pretty cool. I never thought that that would happen. But now it's more about, all right, I joke, I've made grumpy people a lot of money and then they turn out they're still grumpy. It's like, all right, why don't we just start with people that are, have a good mindset, have the abundance mindset. So I'm really looking for culture when I hire, and to be successful with good people is I think one of my good accomplishments lately.
I really love that. And the second one would be, yeah, what's a setback or a lesson that's taught you the most in your career?
Um, for me, I'm ADD. I've never been diagnosed, but I just can't focus on things. So I wish I started with systems earlier. Like I did 9 years of just winging it, and I just feel like I love the Unreasonable Hospitality. That book is about, all right, let's just like
Yep.
systemize everything, but let's put the cherry on top of just something that's over the top, that's completely custom to somebody that shows you they care or you care. So I'd rather I wish I got that ratio in sooner instead of being so customized to every single client, because that's not scalable. That's not, then you start falling back and getting behind. But, being more systemized and having the cherry on top, I think is the way to go.
Awesome. And then I thought it'd be interesting to ask this because you got an interesting background, you know. Um, how did you, because you didn't have the background to be like the luxury agent, but you did have area expertise. So what is it about your story that was the area expertise you built the business on?
So, back I left the .com, they owed me, I think, 40 grand in back payroll or back pay. And I got into real estate with an empty checkbook and, a personality that said basically run from real estate. So I had to really figure out what to do. And we talked about partnerships earlier. I started doing everything. Like I started, even though I didn't like the cold calling, I had the Excel spreadsheet I printed out. I had 10 spaces that I filled in people's names that I talked to about real estate and kind of did all of that stuff. But I knew at that point the internet was, SEO. I knew what Google AdWords
Mhm.
were back before I got into real estate. But I didn't have any money to invest in that. I built a Yahoo templated website. I was sending people to it. They were like, "This is crap." No leads came from it. So I needed a key relationship, key partnership, and there was an internet company that was starting up. And I went into them. I said, "Listen, here's my resume. I wanna partner with you, and basically, I'm gonna write you a check every time I sell a house. I'm gonna treat you like a referral." So I said, "I'm gonna give you 25% of whatever I make if you build me a website." And they built me 5 websites. They were doing cost per click advertising. We'd meet once a week about AdWords, SEO, and all that kind of stuff. My third year in the business, I paid them $77,000. So you can, I got the other 3 quarters. I overpaid them, but they took the risk on me. So that was my first kind of, a partnership. Even though the partnership per deal might not make sense, but if you're in the right partnership at the end of the year, you could probably create more than you could on your own. And I joined Place, which is a partnership. Every single one of my teammates is a partnership. Like your first buyer agent is partnership. You can think about, well, I could make more money if I sold that house instead of them. But it's like all of these partnerships are amazing. Um,
Mhm.
it- so I forgetting your question, like just went down the tangent.
No, no, that's a better one. What I was even thinking is so that's thank you for right put through had an abundance mindset from the beginning, thought about partnership. What I was thinking is you had shared like Adam, like you just grew up on the lake. Like you
Yes.
mentioned before, I know where the wind blows and I know which nook to party in. And like, so we're overthinking, like, man, am I empowered to be an area expert? It was like, no, I just really know the lake better than all these.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the whole website. So I took that story of, all right, don't buy a house here because people party in front of it. Here's the shelf where all the baths are. Like I took that story and put it online. Right. So I needed the partnership to help people find the story, but I had the story. So
Yes.
I shared the story online. And I think, right now we're in a similar time frame because if I did what I did 7 or 8 years later, I don't think it would have worked as well. I was at the front end of SEO, I was at the front end of AdWords, but I still had the story. I would have had to find a different way to get the story out. So right now with AI, you've got all of these AI bots trying to find stories. Like, so right, we're doing long form YouTube videos now because like for a while SEO went by the wayside, but now those articles that I wrote 10 years ago are coming back and being, AI answers like
Mhm.
where are the boathouses or what is a boathouse worth on Lake Winnipesaukee? That's how I met the guy that sold $100 million car dealership because he searched on that 20 years ago. Now he might ask the question in AI. So that specialty, like those, we're writing articles, we're doing videos about our specialty. Now you can
Yep.
become known as that. So we're telling the team, because it's not me anymore as much as me telling the team, if you write the blog post, it's going to be your name and you're going to be the expert in that. So now we've got competition in blog posts because everybody wants to be that specialty and we're not going to overlap each other and things like that. But it's having the story, it's specializing, but then making sure that you're found.
And this is like, honestly, if you've been in the industry for a long time, this is the third cycle I can think of. Adam was the front of an SEO cycle. Then we had the hyper local video when that was optimized, like cycle, right? Then you could have, maybe the fourth, you could have caught the, hey, get on TikTok, get on Reels. They're going to blow you up because they're competing, again, hyper local video. And now we go back to, basically, I forget the term for it, optimizing for AI. Am I answering questions?
I think it's GEO. Don't ask me what G stands for.
Yep. Generative, maybe.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, like generative engine optimization. But so I think that's fantastic. Rob wanted to know, what do the next 10 years look like for you, Adam?
Um, I just kind of hired some key personnel in the hub, in the marketing person, ops person, and a growth person. And from a culture standpoint, they're great. And we've got I've got some agents that have been with me to 8 to 10 years. So we've got the old guard, shouldn't call them old, but and then we've got some newer agents, and I just feel like you've talked about before that foundation.
Yep.
We've got a great foundation, and I'm looking for area experts now. We can support them better because as you spread out, it gets a little harder. You don't have the name recognition as much as you do in your hometown. You don't have some of the articles that are already written, to support leads coming in. So now it's all right. Let me find the person with the story and let me help them tell the story online so that they can be found, and let me support their real estate business. So now we're finding people, and if we get a new listing in a neighborhood, we have a whole checklist of this is the information that we need about not only the number of homes and the features of the properties, but what are the walking trails around it? What are the restaurants that that they're like right near it that are your favorite to go to? Like, so
Mhm.
we're extracting people's story so that we can help them put them online in our, as our online infrastructure gets bigger. I just want to cover the state with people that have a story, that have a great culture, that have an abundance mindset that we can support both in luxury and in residential sales. And if we just cover the state, I think we'd have something pretty cool and pretty big.
I think so. What qualities make the right area expert? What are you looking for in
I
an area
used,
expert? Getting them.
yeah, I used to think I could teach real estate or I could teach the area. Both is really hard, but I'm leaning towards I can teach you real estate. I want you to be ingrained in a community. I want you to grow up and know the school system. I want you to, know
Mhm.
the restaurateur. I want you to play at the golf course or be a part of the charity or go to the large church or, somehow be ingrained in the community. And I can help you tell your story online and I can help you be found a little easier because you're going to be an offshoot of our main website. But also, I can teach you how to do real estate in a way that's been pretty successful for me. Like there are a couple different ways to be. There's lots of different ways of being a salesperson. You can be known as being shrewd, or a killer, or win-win, and somebody who's really cares for the clients and puts the clients above themselves. So I'm finding that good culture fit with deep roots in a community, and I can blow that up.
So yeah, Rob said you're media, you're the platform.
Yeah,
I'm the platform. What's fascinating about this is so I Rob runs Kaza, runs Grid. I got connected with him. It's 2019. Gary's interviewing Rob on stage about psychographic marketing, about being the neighborhood expert in Reston with Reston Digs. We've got the hyperlocal website with the video of every one of the
yeah,
businesses that's optimized, right? And then we're layering that with being like physically present. So I'm an omnipresent, psychographic
yeah,
marketing, right? If anyone's curious about the term. And so it's interesting but we found, and Rob could correct me, it's difficult to train to that. I can't
right.
just go say, "Hey, Amanda, congratulations, you're now the mayor of Carnes in Knoxville." Like, and so assigning people the territory, it just didn't. There's a guy on the team, Matt Magel, massively successful, 40% ownership of his farm. It just didn't quite work, as a consistent one. Now I see Adam's got a great plan. Hey, I've got a psychographic niche of I'm serving a luxury buyer. It's kind of very similar, maybe in the platform, but I've got to expand geographically to do this. And then I'm looking for that natural area expert. Kind of an interesting way to run that model. We've really focused on the investor niche, which again
Yep.
you could serve it because Adam's an investor. Most people on these calls are an investor, whether or not they have adopted that identity. And so how do we just kind of have those conversations with folks? But really interesting to kind of hear that model. The other thing I wanted to ask is, um, you know, what surprised you the most going on this journey? Because you mentioned a couple times, hey, that personality test, man, I took the personality test. Somebody's trying to be a realtor. For everyone watching this, I was director of operations. I took that personality test and it said I was a high S. And now I've taken it again when I do this for a living, and I'm a 99D and 99I. So I don't know, like how what's going to surprise you the most on this journey, Adam? Because like, yeah, you're not. I've met a lot of rainmakers. Some of them have a very kind of me personality. That's not what I get from you.
Um, I think what surprised me, and maybe it surprises a lot of people that see some success and then see some successful people, is the varying ways people handle it. And I don't know if it was in Gary's room that he talked about it, or just people break into a room. And I remember Miali and I actually, we're good friends. And at the time, Gary had like a room for this amount of production, and then the top room was this production. And Miali and I were joking that it was like we were in the JV room, and we wanted to get to the varsity room. And he got the email or the text or noticed on. He's like, Adam, I made the varsity, and I was like truly happy for him. And I was like, oh crap, I know I want to make the varsity room. And then I looked at my stats and I had made the varsity room. Like, so this was just like cool accomplishment. And it was even better, but because I beat him, I think by $30,000. Like it was like so that was fun. I'm very competitive too. Like I celebrate others' success, but I also it's fun to win. And but getting in the room, you're in the room, and people don't enjoy the room. They want the next room. Like there's some that just can't be um, happy with the process. They can't be happy with the success, so they can't be. They're just always trying to find something different or something that they're missing. So it surprises me to see the level of success that I've seen, and the level of just unhappiness might be the strong word, but just not set. People aren't satisfied, or people are just it's just weird, or depressed or grumpy, or whatever you want to call it. I've seen very successful people not act like you would think when people are successful.
I what it, it's. what came to mind when you said that as a metaphor is like think about fire, right? Humans get fire. And if tamed correctly, right, it's amazing. It warms your house, internal combustion, it powers everything. If left unchecked, it burns everything to the ground. Ambition is like fire. I have never met anybody who's number one in something who's not competitive. Because you just don't, you're like, cool, I'm number nine in the state. Like I'm chilling. This is
Yeah.
good. Life's not bad. I got my toes in the sand. I know some very successful entrepreneurs that hit their number and just, especially on the investing side, you meet these people. The millionaire next door rocking the New Balance. And like you've got to be deeply competitive. But man, did you have trouble kind of channeling that ambition? Have you always been kind of like married to the process, competitive, but able to like stay in your lane, stable?
I think being content is, yeah, having the ambition, but also being okay with the situation. Like I think there's the balance. Is like, all right, I want, and you started with it. What's your why? Like I could level off right here, but what do my kids need, right? Or what does my team need? Like, so it's more of why am I doing certain things? And when you take it out of me as a person, I can be happy about my level of success and in my lifestyle. And if I don't overspend, I can have a pretty good lifestyle. And but if I throw Brendan Bouchard talks about having a sticky note on, he wrote High Performance Habits. He has a sticky note on his computer. Who needs my A game to get today? Like we don't always need an A game, but there's somebody in our life that if we look at what we're about to do or, something we're procrastinating and you say, all right, who needs me to do this task I don't want to do today? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's not me, it's somebody else. So I think that's where I like public speaking. I couldn't do podcasts. Like I was too shy to get on a podcast, and somebody signed me up for the GSD podcast, and I canceled it because I was too nervous. I was like, I can't do this podcast. And then he signed me up again. I'm like, I can't do it, but I did it. Like, but then I realized if I don't do these things, if I don't get up on stage, if I'm not on a panel, if I don't do the training in our feeder markets, it's one of the things I do to get leads. Um, then I'm letting other people down. So that I think that's the ambition that if you tap into, you can have contentment, but you can also have a sense of I need to do this.
I love it because you're telling the whole story, right? Impact drives everything. And sometimes I've got to get creative with my mind of how do I align what I want to do with what needs to get done? What's the perspective shift that I can make? Because it's always me changing. What came to mind, Adam, is what changed me the most is I've got to sit in a lot of rooms because I got involved with KWYP. So I just got to sit in all of these rooms where I didn't earn the production, but I was in these other rooms and being in these rooms with high producers, you learn some lessons about success is like money doesn't make you happy, but you have to see a lot of millionaires in a room being like, no, actually, I did the thing or I became number one and it was empty and like a mirage. But one of the things I learned in KW, it's about what do I have to do? How do I grow it for the kids was, hey, so you want to give to charity. Well, you can give 100K once, or you could build a machine that generates 100K every year to donate to charity. And so there's some differences in how do I expand my definition of success? How do I expand what I'd have to build and why I would build it and what it would do for other people? If you do this in 10 years, what does that do for the people in your world? If you get to that goal, in 10 years and you grow and you kind of expand across the state, what have you seen the platform do for the area experts in your business?
Well, we call people century clubs. Like if you make six figures, the Harvard study, if you can pay your bills, that does increase your happiness. Like if you don't have that financial burden,
Yes.
so for me, I'm trying to get as many century club, people working for me in the state of New Hampshire and being consistently providing for their family. And we had 10 last year, which isn't a huge amount, but it's, we're New Hampshire, so it's not, it's pretty good. And, so I want to build that. Like, so in 10 years, if I can have 50, Century Club people, working, providing for their family. But what that also does, it's, so for the people that are with me right now in a operations or leadership role, it gives them upside too. Like if we have 50 people, that means we have more people, helping those 50 people and giving more people opportunity. That hopefully we're bringing more and more people into a place where, and you talked about the 7 levels. All right, we're making a good living. Now we're investing in something. Like I'm investing in a small project with one of my newer agents. It's
Hmm.
exciting to build, something with other people. So it's just for me in 10 years, I want to be better at it.
I love it. So back to partnership.
Yeah.
Back to partnership again. Yeah, success through others. Yeah, I've met people that are running teams that aren't really group oriented, and that's a tough place to be because they were told maybe I should have a team
Right.
or I got so much business. But if you're not motivated by the success of others, running a team can be, I think, a real emotional challenge for folks.
It's
Um,
hard too to give up, not to cherry pick. Like, all right, I'll have a team because I want to give all these crappy leads away and I don't want them to go to waste, but I'm still going to do, so it's the balance of, being there, being visible, making sure you've got a good real estate business. But also, I had agent last year, my listing, my lead, my marketing, and she got both sides of an 8 million, and I was happy for her. Like it just like because it if I've got 20 people doing that, I'm making a lot more money than if I just tried to do it all.
no, I love that. And Rob said it sounds like Chris Suarez, co-founder of Place, along with Ben Kinney, is writing a book about the power of partnership. By the way, Chris has just for anyone on the call has an experiential MBA program,
Yeah, yeah.
and you can do this mastermind, and it's a yearly thing. But they've also done one-off events. So I got to go to the New York one as a one-off, like just showed up, paid the an amazing experience. It brought in some incredible speakers. Chris and Ben were there. Toured Goldman Sachs. Got to interview the guy that wrote Tom Wainwright. Like just pretty incredible occasion. Who's got some questions for Adam? Anybody have anything they wanna ask Adam? If not, I can keep going. I got questions for days.
Well, the
So
question I would have for Adam. What's up, Adam? Good to see you,
Hey
brother.
Rob, how are you?
Good, man. Question I have for Adam is somebody on this call is maybe has a limiting belief about breaking into luxury, or they're thinking about breaking into luxury, but they're being held back. What advice would you give to that person that is trying to break into luxury? Like, what tactically could they do? One, two, three, to help them penetrate.
So I tell my agents to create their people to know list, because you're truly trying to create a relationship network that will support a luxury business. Um, if you called like five of your clients and said, "Are you using an accountant? Do you like your accountant? How would you rate your accountant?" And say, "I'm calling everybody that I know to ask this question. Would you like to know the answer? Yeah, when I'm done." And then you go through it for your financial advisor. Then you go through it, for all of the things that luxury people would want to know. It's good for me in a second home market because people might be coming here with it and want to have new, people. Who's the best probate lawyer? Who's the best? There's all different types of all of these really good professions. And if you just did a deep dive on who's the best or the second best of, some people aren't taking clients, and some people are, may have a, really good relationship with a realtor. And so for me, it's creating that list. And then the other way to do it and kind of back into it is if you know one of those influencers as defined, like influence in the community and influence, you're trying to earn influence for you, is you call them and say, who's your accountant, who's your, and then make your list. So I think when I get calls from people new to the area, if I have the people, they're going to call me again to get new people if they're not on the list and things like that. But I wouldn't, the limiting belief is you have to know everything, right? But if you're known as a person who gets the answers, if you don't know, and if you don't try to be the puffed out chest expert in everything, because they can see through that. They can see when you're not, when you're faking it. and you're giving vague answers. But if you come back with a really thought out email after you said, I don't know, that's actually going to prove your worth more than just trying to do everything off the top of your head.
Thanks, Adam. I appreciate it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
been, um, this is the second time we've heard this now. Matt, obviously you and Matt are buddies. I'm buddies with Matt, right? But Matt is
Yeah.
really big into building that into that list. And so, guys, success leaves clues. This seems to be like one of the big ones. This has to be like a non-negotiable for everybody on this call. Like I wouldn't leave this call being like, oh, that was entertaining. Adam's awesome, and then just keep doing the same thing you're doing all the time. Like build the friggin' list, make that call, and yeah, compound your relationships is what I would say. So thank you, Adam.
Well, if you think about the list, like the tool, if you have, say you have 20 people on the list and then you sell a house, think about the 20 phone calls that are super easy that you can call. Call your accountant and say, hey, I don't know if they're going to call you or not, but I just wanted to make sure that you knew that Dave just bought 123 Main Street and I gave them your name as the best accountant in town. And then you do that 20 times, they might not call, but you get the credit. So if you, and then you have 30 people that you sell another house, then you make that call 30 times. It's if you work that in early, it's easy.
Yeah, and
um,
I guess Adam, the piece you haven't hit on here, but I'm sure that the byproduct is those trusted sources end up becoming your clients. I would
Oh
imagine.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're the clients like the home inspector that says, Adam, don't tell anyone, but I gave your name to so and so. Or you get to list, actually we're listing oh crap, it's snowing. I knew it was
oh
coming.
no.
The golf course is supposed to be open. So I'm listing somebody who owned a real estate company for the last 20 years and sold it and all that kind of stuff. We're bringing her house to market. So you get to be the person. If you're the connector, at some point, the connectees will connect with you.
No, that's fantastic because here's Grid is a national network of investors, right? At a hyper local level. So we built these in-person communities where every resource you need, those 20 people are in the room for you. So if you're on this call and you're interested in wealth building, like again, you have access to it. You have access to our entire national. So whatever you're trying to do, we have that connection. Like this is you're hearing some clues. That's why I'm so confident on the real estate side. I myself, good agent, I am never going to be number one in any state. It's not a desire of mine, but man, I can. Adam's not the first person I met who I can, who's in my network who I know I could reach out to as the number one agent in a state. Right? You got access to these resources. We can level up these resources, and again, we find ourselves in the same overlapping circles. So if you are, Julian, pull that up here. I mentioned that because we've got an event June 1st and June 2nd. We're going to do an in-person conference, a grid conference, because the one thing, and Adam touched on this a couple different times about AI coming here in the future and the need for like an area expert. One of the things we're seeing, you may see this too, Adam, is like you need that in person. That's why you've got these, you're not doing this virtually across the state, right? You're locating like individual in-person area experts. So we've got a conference here. So if you're curious about building wealth, if you're on this call, you're on this plan, in this room, you're going to meet a bunch of incredible people. We're going to talk about the 7 levels. We're going to have experts on every facet of the 7 levels there. If you've never been to one of our events, if you love this culture, it's everything that Adam talked about. Like the success leaves clues here. And our goal is just to be the connector because we found like being the connector in our world, Adam, same thing has led me to everything. What you're telling me reminds me of what Bob Kalinsky says. You probably know Bob. Bob co-owned the Southeast region of KW. It's like the sixth or seventh largest real estate company, in the country for a while. And so he talked about the same thing. You have to have a board of advisors. How do I get my board of advisors? I call Adam. Hey, who's your best accountant? And I make that call 5 times. Then I ask that accountant, who's your best attorney? Right? I go to the most successful, wealthiest people I know, and I ask them for their accountant, their divorce attorney, their personal banker. I interview those folks, and in doing so, like I build my own kind of board of advisors and network. So,
Well,
uh,
the good way of doing it that way is it's an
yep,
easy phone call because you're saying, so and so gave me her name, so it's not
yes.
your reputation, it's not you as a person, it's their reputations that's opening the door.
And one of the things you kind of have mentioned that you talked about mentorship, and it rings true for me because you're on this call. We didn't know each other. Is I have found like asking for help from other people,
Oh yeah.
people really want to pour into people that are here to listen, that are going to take action, that are going to say, "Great, hey Adam, remember when you came and you spoke to us? Here's the result that happened. Thanks so much for like taking that time." I just have you found that as well because you're in an area, second home area. You mentioned this highly successful. Some of these business exits are huge numbers, 100 million, 600
Yeah,
million,
yeah.
like that. Yeah, did you have any limiting beliefs around that or like asking for help, or did you kind of just find intuitively people wanted to pour in?
Um, I think for me, it was I wanted them to do the talking. So I actually think it was more defensive, just like
Yeah.
I like to listen. If I'm in a room, I'm a high S. Like I'm when I go into Gary's room, yeah, everybody else is like fighting to talk, and I'm like, all right, go for it, guys. So I just had to get better and better at asking good questions. And I generally was interested in hearing how they were successful, being an entrepreneur, and wanting to
Hmm.
learn. I think that part of it came naturally, and it was like the special skill that made them feel good. Like they wanted to be the mentor. They were proud of me as I, became successful. And, I've got a lot of those people that are, congratulating me on my success now, 20 years later, and they were a part of it. So they feel good.
I love that. Anything I should have asked you that I didn't ask you, Adam, before I let you go today?
Um, we hit on a lot of it. I think people get afraid when you're seeking these relationships that, oh, they already have a realtor, right? Or they probably already have a relationship and things like that. So if you've got that fear, I think one thing to alleviate that fear is just to say, you know what? In real estate, people are used to talking to more than one realtor. So I'm not looking to be your primary or your sole realtor. I just want a seat at the table. Like I'll win the listing if the client's right for me and I'm right for them. I'm okay going, you know, with competition. It actually is beneficial to your client. They get two marketing plans, they get two CMAs, they get, you know, two personalities. So I think that if you get rid of the limiting belief of they're already recommending somebody else, you can open yourself up to a lot of different influencer relationships and people to know.
Thank you. Uh, if you've never been to one of these before, we record all of these. They get uploaded to the Grid Investor YouTube channel, so you can go back, watch all of these. Julian does a great job of pulling out the insights and tagging them. I mention that because what Adam just talked about, Amanda Dahl, one of the best coaches in the country, best operations people, has a script in there where she says, "Hey, I go make a call and I call everybody, and one of the calls to make is, hey, Adam, do you have someone that you can ask real estate questions in your life, no, well, what would it take for me to be this person? Yes, you do. Awesome. Hey, do you have a plan B? Do they do everything? Do they do commercial? Do they work these like rural areas? Could I be that person for you? And
Right.
people I have found like in asking that, like that is a way people are almost relieved. Hey, you know what, Adam? Yeah, sure. You could be third in the list. Or if he's out of town, sure, I'd be happy to give you a call. Like that makes sense. And so I thought that was a go back and watch that. She goes into the nuances of it, but it's such a natural sort of question of not, hey, can you send me your business? Do you have someone that you're gonna ask real estate questions to? So I might
Yep.
modify it a little bit if I'm, making that phone call to someone of influence I want to be in relationship with, because I want to be intuitive of how I'd ask that question. But it's still the same basic framework that Adam just mentioned is, hey, could I be your option for, do you have an expert at this lake? Do
Yeah.
you have locally, what about the rest of the state? By the way, I'm in this room, you may not know that I get to like mentor and across. I've kind of built a national network of like local experts. So if you ever need someone in another, I'd be happy to make an introduction. I've got a national network of closely held contacts. Like
Exactly.
I love it, Adam. Thanks so much. What a great way to
Yeah.
start the morning. Sorry it's snowing. You're not getting on the links today. We're gonna pray that
I can't
you get
believe
some
it.
sunshine soon. Uh, uh,
Well, if you guys want to follow me, like I said, I'm doing the whole long story YouTube, diving into hoping to be the answer to AI's questions. Follow me on Instagram, just Instagram/AdamDow.com.
yep. And then Julianne, you're gonna drop Adam's contact info in here. You may have already done that. So we
Hmm.
could
She
follow
did.
Adam. Fantastic. Yep, I see it all right there. Thank you. Yeah. Follow him on there. And then if are you still getting voluntold to go on podcasts? Because we got a great podcast if you need to get just
Yeah,
seven
no, I
people.
like, it's still about mindset. It's still about your self-talk too. I don't say that I'm not a good public speaker anymore because I have to not be in order to help my business grow and others in my world, wealth grow. So yeah, no, I can do podcasts. I can do whatever now. So I've turned the page on that.
Well, what I love, and I'll leave it on this, is just we talk about this disc personality profile. There's different kinds of personality profiles, right? We have to adjust to that. One of the things that I love about real estate is you do this long enough, you find out that every personality profile can have success. And it's like, oh, yeah, it's really calming. This as Adam came on and he's very chill and relaxed. It's not too TI.
Miali and I are completely different people. Our businesses are like, obviously there's some
Sure.
similarities, but we're very, very different people, and we make fun of that.
Yep, and I love that. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to start the day with us. Be excellent. We appreciate you, brother. Go out,
Awesome.
take some
Thank you for
care
having
early
me.
on this Tuesday.